Well, welcome back. I am John Euler. This is Journey to Healing. We are in the midst of an extended series on grief and loss, but we are looking at some of the lesser understood things that will keep us stuck in the process of healing. One of the key pieces is an inability to discern the degree of selfishness in the lives of other people around me, because they will begin encroaching upon me, encroaching upon the things that are important to me, the God-given things that are important. They will take, and Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." Jesus used the term pigs, so we are using the term pigs. We're not into name calling, it's actually a descriptive term. We have to know who we're dealing with. He also said, "Do not give what is holy to dogs." Dogs ran the streets, so they were outside the home. Pigs were within the confines of your personal property. So whether inside the home or outside the home, we need to be able to discern the nature of someone, because we are called to be a good steward of ourselves, of our time, effort, energy, resources, everything about us. If I have permitted people in my life that I shouldn't, and I've permitted them to continue being selfish and doing things that are injurious to me, then I am bringing on pain that is needless and unproductive. So we're looking at how to identify those people in our lives that are not healthy, not good. Last time we looked at the scale of selfishness in order to discern where somebody falls on the scale of minor infractions to morphing of piggishness. Okay? So what is needed more than anything is discernment and wisdom. The book of Proverbs opens with, as a matter of fact, in chapter 1 and chapter 2, 3,000 years ago, it indicated that that's the key thing we should pray for is wisdom. And if I pray for wisdom, I will be granted discernment. Wisdom allows me to know the steps I should take, given the situation and given the people that were around. So if I pray for wisdom, I will be granted discernment, and that will help me know what is right, just, and fair. That's how I interact with people properly. So what are the hindrances to being able to properly discern someone that is morphed into a pig? Before the break, we looked at, last program, or last half, we just looked at, we need to look at ourselves first. We need to be able to take the log out of our own eyes first before being able to see somebody who really is a pig. So we looked at an assessment of the degree of selfishness in our own life. So you may want to look at that. Number 2, the thing that will hinder our ability to accurately and adequately discern whether or not somebody is morphed into a pig, so that we have somebody in our life that we need to have boundaries with, will be our inability to understand and discern the enablers and the co-conspirators. One other category of problematic people are those that will allow pigs to be pigs and those that make excuses for them. There are 3 categories. The first is one that we can have empathy toward, and we can actually also forgive because, strangely enough, they mean and intend the best, but they are deluded. This is the naive and well-intentioned enabler who is actually manipulated into doing the bidding of the selfish pig. They just haven't put the whole picture together yet, as they want to believe the pig is being truthful and isn't a pig. So they discern, or they're trying to discern, but their discernment is clouded, so they reinterpret what they are seeing, giving the person, the selfish person, the benefit of the doubt when that is not needed. And so it continues. The selfishness, the piggishness continues to grow. So this person, the naive or well-intentioned enabler, continues to make excuses. And this can go on for years. And the kids will pay the price, quite frankly, as well as the well-intended spouse. Their stress level will end up going through the roof. They confuse willfulness with someone who has flaws, faults, and rough edges. We talked about that last time. And they think the selfish person just needs a little more grace, a little more time and forbearance so that they can grow into maturity. So they're missing it. They're reinterpreting selfishness as a lack of an ability to grow. So they're still trying to be patient with someone that they shouldn't. They make allowance for and tolerate the person's selfishness, and they view it as growing pains that will finally decrease with enough time and enough patience. But year after year, it keeps happening. And the selfish person, the smarter they are, the more they can keep having enough gradation to it where it always seems that there's something else. That if we can just get past this, if we can just get beyond this, then things will settle down. These are really the characteristics of a dry alcoholic home. If the person was flat out drinking, it would be easy to see why they do what they do. But this is someone who is very calculating, but without the alcohol, which will have typically another kind of compulsion with it. This kind of enabler sucks it up. So this person that's making excuses for, quite frankly, making allowance for, they will suck it up. They feel the stress from the anger because they're feeling anger. On the inside, they're just keeping a lid on it. Why? They're trying to be patient with the person they think that needs patience. Yet they try to tell themselves and the kids that, you know what, this person, dad or mom, they just need a little more time, so we just need to be a little more patient. This is the kind of spouse that falls into the trap of doing the bidding of the selfish parent, such as, wait till your father gets home. This is the Mother Gothel, who, if she had been married, in the movie Tangled, Mother Gothel is single. What would it have been like to have been married to a Mother Gothel? I'll tell you what it's like. Look at what she did with Rapunzel. She confused Rapunzel. She was good at it. But with enough proof and feedback, this kind of enabler will have their eyes opened and they'll have a wake-up call. At some point in time, this kind of enabler will start to see things and start to piece things together. And when it finally happens, this common front that the manipulative parent has been working for, which prevents the kids from giving the decent parent accurate information and objective information. So the Mother Gothel has kept the kids quiet. She has threatened them. If your father leaves, you're mine, and now you're going to be in trouble. And then she's worked the halfway decent parent who's naive into believing that what he's hearing from her, the constant complaints about the kids, is accurate. Nothing could be further from the truth, but the reason why this generates such anger and resentment within the kids is they feel abandoned. But once the naive parent wakes up and smells the coffee, it's at that moment the kids will see a new parent emerge. They'll see someone who's very, very different because he will do anything to prove to the kids that he's different. And more importantly, he'll do anything to make sure that now the kids are safe, are rescued from Mother Gothel. We see this same dynamic in the movie Tangled with Flynn, though Flynn isn't a father. But watch how intensely Flynn races now that he sees what's going on, and watch how Mother Gothel responds. Because should the parent ever wake up, the decent parent wake up, he or she will face the likes of a Mother Gothel.
Rapunzel? Rapunzel, let down your hair! Rapunzel, I thought I'd never see you again.
Now look what you've done, Rapunzel. Oh, don't worry, dear. Our secret will die with him.
You notice how Mother Gothel emerged. The pig inside of Mother Gothel. All the external facade fell off, and we saw the truth. This kind of parent, once the naive parent sees it, will see the Gothels begin to do radical things. They can even feign suicide to get the parent to come back out of sympathy as they play upon the good person's ethics in order to control the good person. They will slander the good parent's personal or professional reputation to make it impossible for them to succeed without them. Because once you start slandering somebody, and we'll see that the word slander, the root of that word is devil. I am no more like the devil as when I am killing somebody's soul by slandering them. Then if all of that doesn't work, the Gothel parent, the pig, the manipulator, will try to even harm the decent parent, even going so far as to file false criminal charges or to do anything necessary to get them to crawl back so that things can be back the way they are, so that they might even drop the criminal charges. This is a very dangerous person we're talking about as far as the pig. And the naive person that's been enabling, once they wake up and smell the coffee, they'll do whatever is necessary, and the kids will see that. Fear-based enablers, that's another type that will prevent pigs from being able to be fully identified. Fear-based enablers are manipulated into doing what they do out of fear of the supposed omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence of the hurtful person. And they'll make excuses for that hurtful or selfish person. So they are fearful to ever do anything because the selfish person has threatened them by degree. A lot of these people have backgrounds as survivors, so they don't experience the fight or flight. They start to experience the freezing kind of behavior. They reinterpret the pig as more powerful than he or she really is. The abused spouse freezes and doesn't protect the kids and doesn't leave for fear of something worse happening, and nobody being there to protect them and witness what will happen. So the manipulator, the pig, the selfish person, has convinced the fear-based enabler that there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, they can't get away. And so they just keep hoping that it won't get worse, while meanwhile it continues to get worse. Cult victims and serious abuse victims can fall into this, which is actually another term for learned helplessness. There's a third kind of enabler, and this is the enabler that benefits from the way things are, what I call the co-conspirator. They derive secondary gains and benefit from the status quo. That's why they're not making any change. Oh, they may say they dislike it, but deep down inside they're benefiting in one way or another. So if the selfish person is the wife, then the husband and father is benefiting from the way the wife is working things. It allows him to be equally as selfish. He can be into his own stuff and not have his life disrupted. Meanwhile, the kids are being sacrificed. Or vice versa. Maybe the wife or the spouse is benefiting financially and they like the perks, they like the status, they like the trips, they like the ego strokes as they go out to dinner, as they go to church, wherever they are. And meanwhile, again, the kids are suffering. This is the trickiest of all kinds of enabler for the kids to figure out in terms of responsibility and culpability, as this kind of parent can make it appear that they are actually the victim and are suffering along with the kids. They're suffering through it. But the truth is, this kind of parent could stop it at any point in time and in a matter of minutes by packing up the kids and leaving the perpetrator pig in the dust, by saving the kids and never returning. But they manipulate the kids into believing that there's no choice but to remain and have to live through it. That is why it's so tricky for the kids with this type of parent. This kind of parent appears frail behind the scenes, but on the phone or in public they appear emotionally strong and capable and socially adept. This kind of person can hold a management position where they would be fired in a split second if they ever acted as inept on the job as they do at home. Folks, that is not someone that we should pity. That is someone that owes a lot of explanation to the kids. If they were frail 24/7, then that's one thing. But if they can turn it on and turn it off, they are not a victim. This is the parent who sacrifices his or her children because they like the perks and benefits of being connected or married to the spouse. This is the parent who knowingly looks the other way or walks out of the room when the abusive parent starts to abuse the kids. In the extreme cases, they are the Ghislaine Maxwells of Epstein and Allison Mack of NXIVM. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 6 says, "Do not be fooled by those who try to excuse the sins of pigs." I added the last part, but that's what it means. Do not be excused by those who try to excuse these sins, the sins of selfish people. There is no doubt that the scriptures teach we are to discern who we're dealing with in order to ensure we're not choosing to be around pigs. To do so invites unproductive pain and is actually disobedient. We have to know who we're dealing with. The key reason why we need to discern how big of a pig is so that we can protect ourselves and others by establishing boundaries that match the degree of piggishness, that then can also corral the pig's willfulness and hurtfulness so that the pig isn't consuming people, isn't trampling pearls and then turning on people. 1 Timothy 3, chapter 3, verse 1 through 5, it gives a very important list of the character qualities of pigs. They love themselves. They are utterly self-centered, are automatically looking out for number one. They are egotistical. They are motivated by what will be in their own best interest. That is a pig. They are boastful. They brag. They're proud. They're arrogant. They're abusive to people and blasphemous. Scoffers at the idea that God's rule will be over them, and they have no fear of God's judgment for the way they treat other people. They are disobedient to parents. This is an important piece when it has to do with the minor being under the home, but let's say in late teens. And we see that a lot going on now with kids that are morphing into very self-entitled kids. Unfortunately, we see some of those kids in the trans movement where they tell the parents basically go pound sand. Parents, if you have a young adult like that in your home, you're going to have to start implementing boundaries little by little. And if need be, when age 18 comes around, you help them out. You help them out of the house in a methodical way, but you cannot keep a mocker and a scoffer in your home. They've morphed into a pig. So it is possible for children as they become adults, if they've been hurt, but they're not dealing with their hurt properly, they can become resentful, then bitter. That is their choice. And we need to take steps to make sure you do not have a resentful and bitter person who is morphing into a pig under your roof. They are ungrateful, another sign of a pig. They are ungracious and unthankful. They are unholy. Kind of speaks for itself. Without normal human affections, this is very, very important. They are heartless, they are callous, they are indifferent to others without any milk of human kindness. That's what without normal human affections mean. They don't have a heart. They are unforgiving. So you've actually apologized, but what are they like? They are relentless in admitting no truce or appeasement. They're not going to stop. They're not going to let up. They're not going to let you off the hook. And unappeasable, implacable, irreconcilable. They are truce breakers, and they're unappeasable. Slanderous. So here's another descriptor of a pig. They're slanderous. Again, we get that word comes from diabolos. There's a mountain in Northern California called Mount Diablo. That's Devil's Mountain. They are engaged in soul murder. If I destroy somebody's reputation, I am murdering their soul. I destroy their reputations. So a slanderous person loves destroying reputations. They are a false accuser, a troublemaker. They have dark motivation to harm someone's reputation. They have no self-control in what they say or do, and they are verbally incontinent. Isn't that great? They run at the mouth. That's actually what the word means. They are cruel. They're fierce, brutal, and savage, meaning it's sport to them. They're like gladiators. They're verbal gladiators. They hate what is good. They're haters of good, not loving good. They hate ethics. They despise those who are good. They're driven. They are driven to harm, in one way or another, those that are truly good. They are treacherous. They betray, and they're traitors. They go behind your back. They backstab. They are reckless and rash about what comes out of their mouth. They're conceited. They're puffed up, high-minded, inflated with conceit. And the list actually goes on. But here's an interesting one in verse 5. They act religious and are involved in religious activities. That's what makes them so deadly, so dangerous, so diabolical, and so hard to spot. Why? Because they love going to church, and now the kids are doubly confused. That's why they love Mother's Day and Father's Day in church, because they can preen, but nobody knows what they're like as soon as the car doors open. So how do we discern this kind of person? How can we really, really be sure, aside from that list? Well, I come up with another list. I've come not better than that, by the way, but I've come up with a list. It's a I should actually publish this list in the scientific journal. But it's a list that's going to look at degrees of ability and motivation, how able and capable they are. So this will look at the degree of willfulness and responsibility, degree of truthfulness, of hurtfulness, of oppressiveness, and how glib are they? That's superficial charm. Why? Because if somebody can turn it on and turn it off, and the extent to which they can do that, when it works for them, especially outside the home, then you really know you're dealing with a professional grade pig. You know, the PCLR, the hair psychopathy checklist, I'm certified in that, is what is used in forensic evaluations of psychopaths. There are two kinds of psychopaths, a bloody psychopath and a white-collar psychopath. It's well known, those in the field, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Madoff of NASDAQ, who made off with everybody's money. Those are white-collar psychopaths. There's some other indicators, by the way. Somebody who is very glib and very profound or profoundly selfish is also self-disciplined as opposed to impulsive. They are methodical as opposed to whimsical. They are emotionally controlled as opposed to emotionally reactive. They are capable of experiencing emotions. A lot of people think the most profoundly kind of selfish people are incapable of emotions, and that's not true. They just have their own emotions. They are patient as opposed to impatient. Oh, they can wait. They can wait you out. And that's why if you try to wait long enough, you're never going to wait longer than they are. So you will be spending years and years trying to hope that they change. And they can plan strategically. This kind of person is not driven by impulse or by fancy. So as we look at the assessment of their willfulness and responsibility, of truthfulness, hurtfulness, oppressiveness, and glibness, we have the makings of what I call, if you do the alliteration, it is the warthog assessment. So we're going to take the warthog assessment to help us discern beyond a shadow of a doubt how big of a pig. So the assessment will help us discern the degree of willfulness and responsibility. How selfish are they, and can they help it? So here are some questions for that first category. We're probably not going to make it through many additional points, just this one point. Then we'll pick it up at this point next time. Okay, so the first first category is their willfulness and responsibility. To what extent would you describe them as conscientious, thoughtful, and kind? Meaning if they are not conscientious, thoughtful, and kind, then they are not that way on purpose. Meaning they are purposely withholding that. To what extent do they choose and intend to do what they want to do? Meaning, are they kind of with it and know what they're doing? To what extent do they choose and do what they do? To what extent do they know that they know the difference between right and wrong? Let me repeat that. To what extent do they know the difference between right and wrong? Crazy people do not know the difference between right and wrong, and so we don't hold them accountable. If you know that this person knows the difference, then they know what they're doing because they're violating their conscience. To what extent do they genuinely apologize when they are wrong or when they've been hurtful? If you've never heard the certain person that's in your mind right now that you've been thinking about as we've been going through this, if it takes you a while to try to figure out the last time you heard them apologize, or if they've never apologized, then trust me, they're a pig. Can you imagine going through your life and giving yourself permission never to apologize? That means that person has never met the criteria for 1 John 1:9. They have never produced the fruits of repentance. God says a humble and contrite spirit he will not despise or push away. Humble and contrite people apologize. Pigs never do. So if you're dealing with someone that you have to think hard to figure out when the last time you heard them apologize was, then unfortunately you're dealing with a pig. And you shouldn't be around them anymore. You need to have boundaries. We will continue looking at the warthog assessment and the extent to which we may have somebody in our life that we need to have really firm boundaries with on the next edition of Journey to Healing.
You've been listening to Journey to Healing, sponsored by SurvivorSupport.net. We trust you've been helped by the information our host, John Euler, has shared. To donate to this ministry, schedule a personal consultation with John, or to arrange a professional training for your church or organization with John, simply visit our website. On behalf of Survivor Support, we look forward to hearing from you and to have you join us next time on Journey to Healing.